now we all look famous. Diamonds on the neck, on the wrist, and the anklets. Little bit of oil and we back to the basics. Letting everybody know now. Put the name in lights, now we all look famous. Diamonds on the neck, on the wrist, and the anklets. Little bit of oil and we back to the basics. Letting everybody know now. Crystal rain, crystal rain, crystal rain, crystal rain, crystal rain.
Hello everybody, what's up, what's up, what's up? So I am coming to you. So today I watched the entire Mojo in the Morning casting call, like open casting call. So pretty much if you don't know about it, which only way you don't know about it is if you don't listen to the show. So I watched it. But there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about. It's like, wow, right? So if you don't know about it, they held an open casting call for an open spot on their show. And that's just pretty much the way it was stated and the way it was posted. And so how you applied was, which was what was listed. This is what was listed. Now, we did see them watching videos on channel 95.5. You know, you could see them if you go and look at and listen to them, and if you go look at their Facebook Live. And you can see them looking at the videos and stuff like that, but it wasn't necessarily said how to send the videos in. It wasn't like, hey, when you apply, make sure you send your video here or there. And I know I listened for quite a while, and I'm not saying I heard this from the very, very beginning. So when I first heard that they were doing this open casting, it was like beginning of June. That's when I first heard. So maybe I didn't hear everything. I'm going to be honest. But you would expect the instructions to be on everything. So once I applied, and I did they said to go to our Facebook page, click that Google Docs link, and then go to the iHeart, careers page and apply. And that was all that was stated. And then you received an email saying, hey, thanks for your application and blah, blah, blah. And so, I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. I'm thinking, you think you would at least get an email, get something like, hey, thanks for your consideration, but we're moving, something. But no, nothing. And so I sent an email this morning. That's what I did. I sent an email this morning stating, and the one person whose email is listed on something saying, hey, this is, just for the stations and for certain things. I sent an email to that email, and then it referred me to another email because that person's on vacation. And it was like, well, you should have received an email from this person. And it was like, okay, no. And I checked my emails, and it's like, maybe I didn't get it. What were the instructions? And no. So we're watching and making comments because another person says, oh, I hope I still have a chance because, and I said, me too, because this is, what happened. And another person chimed in and said, hey, same here. I didn't get anything either. And I'm not sure if they were just only contacting those who they were truly interested in. But someone else said, after you did that, you should have received an email with further instructions. And so as we're saying this, and so someone was like, you need to send a video. And I was like, I didn't know anything about a video. I didn't see how to send the video. I didn't hear none of that. And so the other person who was on there too was saying the same things. Like, it says, no, that wasn't requested. And who were we to send our video to? So I figured, like many, if there was further instructions, you would have received something. And so that's what one person said. They would have sent you something with further instructions. And that's basically what was confirmed. So for those who are like, yo, what happened? That's what happened. They would have sent you an email with further instruction. And I'm not new to open casting calls. My background is acting, and my background is also amateur modeling. And I've gone to open casting calls. I've done things like this before on a grander scale. Here are the comments. When you're doing something like this, I understand this isn't on such a grand scale because they probably have a smaller space. They can't have lines of people, outside the building. The show's only the allotted amount of time. And actually what happened on the show is that I'm not sure how many more they had to go, but they took like 2 more people, which was like, hey, you guys got to stop, blah, blah, blah. But, because they wanted them to end, they kind of went over a little bit on their time slot. And I was like, well, I thought the show went from 5 a.m. to 11. No, 5 a.m. is like a warm up where they like show old, like, play old stuff. Because I woke up that early to be like, are they gonna like just be like, hey, you need to come down between this time? Because I figured there was a way they were going to limit the amount of people. This is one of the ways that they limited the amount of people. And this was what was commented, because as me and this people going back and forth, I was like, what video? And so Shannon makes a comment. She goes, well, oh, we see this, and this person, like they're talking to this one person, and it's like, oh, you have a lot of followers, and we also got this from your video. But again, hello, if you don't have all the instructions, I wasn't the only one, you would need to state this is where you send your video to. So like I said, they had to find a way to limit these numbers. Remember, gatekeepers. We'll talk about that later. Gatekeepers. They had to find a way to limit because they had a lot of people. They had a lot of people applying, and you got to figure out, oh, hey, we got one spot. Maybe we could do something with some of these other people. It would be nice if they did add some of the people who was there who were like really good. He says we might be able to find something else for them to do. Okay, like what? There's one position. Like, what are they going to do? Come on, let's get real. Let's get real, people. Let's be real. So they had to find a way to limit this. So I think there was like a good like 30, 40, 50 people maybe that had went down who I think was called or who I think received an email. And out of the 30, he said he was counted like 12, but I didn't count 12 people. I think maybe they did 10 with those last two. Maybe. Not that many. So, oh my goodness. I don't want anybody to feel that, they wasted their time. And I'm just kind of like, well, I'm kind of glad. I'm just glad. Let's put it that way. I'm glad. And we're going to talk about some other things. So first of all, your process. Like I said, I'm not new to open castings and open calls. This is something I've been doing. I've been doing open calls and things like that since I was a teenager and actually have stopped doing them, honestly. But, you take a chance and you give it your best, right? And usually what I'm used to is they give you something to fill out. You get further instructions because it's open, which means it's open to all. That's what that means. This was more like, hey, you're open to apply. And then what we're going to do is go to your Facebook page or your whatever page, because they ask for your social media because you filled out. They ask for your social media on the Google Doc, and then they ask for your social media on the regular application too. And so basically, what happens is if they went to your social media and saw that maybe not a lot of followers, or if you don't do a lot of things like this, which I'm just kind of known for doing things like this. My old Facebook page was taken down. Only one of my pages is still up that you can have access to, and I didn't think to link that one because I don't have access to it. So I only have my new page, and that's what all my current things on, what I currently look like, all that stuff is on. And so if you're going by just what you see on a screen, what? You can't do that. Because I made a comment, because when that comment was made, oh, she has this many followers and something like that. I was like, oh, okay, I feel the shade. I feel it. But guess what? And I responded back. I'm not going to not respond back. Why would I do that? I responded back. I said, okay, first of all, because something was made about low followers or, low whatever. And that's my new page. My old page was hacked and taken down. And I said, trust me, people know Crystal Rain. And, I just I let it at that. And then there was no more comments made. But let's go on with what we saw. What we saw, everybody. So what we saw was the first person. I don't even understand. This is the way it was made, because there was a lot of things made. There was a lot of, to check a box. A lot of to check a box. And so the first person that you see, which they didn't spend a lot of time with because there was no reason to spend a lot of time with that person, because I didn't even understand why that person was selected to go in. I was like, there were no other people that was good enough to get put on. I mean, this person literally looked like, well, first of all, they just rolled out of bed. It was like, you got to put some thought and some effort into this. He talked to her for a little bit and was like, okay, cool. Well, thanks for coming in. And once, let's move it on. And you would have thought they would have moved this process on and made the open call and the auditions and the castings more of their morning process. No, they kept their regular morning flow, which is understandable, keeping the regular morning flow. which was okay. uh, but I probably would have did something different. I wouldn't have called in 30 to 50 people knowing I was going to put like 10 people up there. Like I said, there were a lot of check boxes. Oh, and let's also talk about, I made a comment because we started talking about voices. So there was this one person, that person, they were very good. They're a trans man. They're a man transitioning to being a woman. And I like that person because I was like, hey, that voice isn't on this show. So one of the reasons, let's talk about that. One of the reasons why I applied was I was like, it would be nice to have that African American woman voice on the show. And when we were talking about certain things and people started like going in on this trans person, which was totally wrong because they did a good job. I think they were like, their energy was really high at that moment because as they came in, then it's like they're very excited about boxing and certain things. They seem like a cool person. But, there was also this other thing about promo, just so you can come on to promote. And I was like, what? Well, you had people basically promoting themselves. The one woman mentioned her videographer business. And I'm going, why would you do this? You have a thriving videography business that you have to be making good money at. Now, this position, let's talk about the position. Because the way it was made to sound, you might get to do some commenting. They said, yeah, we're going to bring you on air with us, to comment. But mainly you're going to be doing behind the scene things. So for what this position, some people are probably thinking about was, hey, I'm going to be up there as on-air talent. Not completely. Not completely. So I was kind of like, when Mojo went more into that, was a little bit like, oh, okay. So, I was like, most people are probably hoping this to be their break into being an on-air talent. And that was a little bit kind of like, for me. And I was like, that's cool. I wouldn't mind getting in there and learning. I don't mind. Because you have to learn. So if you're going to hire somebody straight off the street that does not have much, much experience in something like this, broadcasting or speaking, or it's like, okay, maybe we should look for people we don't have to like maybe teach and hold their hands. Like that first one, you don't have to teach her and hold her hand. That to me, that's why I was like, this doesn't make, no. That just didn't make any sense to me. And I was like, out of all the people there, so when I looked at the picture of the big group of the people who had showed up, I saw quite a few African American women and men, but we hadn't seen any at this point. And I was like, in my head, I was like, you know what? And this was before this day. I was like, it's probably going to be the usual suspects. I'm not going to lie about it. Like, so we are on air and unfiltered. On air and unfiltered. I am getting back to doing my commentary like I used to do. And you either love it or you hate it. You love it or you hate it. But that's the point, is to be real, to be on air and unfiltered. So we're continuing to watch. So I'm just watching this, and I made a comment, and because as they were going in on this trans person, I was like, look, y'all need to chill in the comments. Chill. I said, everyone has something special or unique about them. That's why I didn't like when that comment was made. Like, okay, so you basically looked at a screen, and on the screen on your box that showed you what? There's only one way you're going to see someone's personality. There's only one way you're going to be like, this is a good fit. You can't just go by an Instagram, a Facebook, which was proven today. You can't just go by that. Let's continue. So, as they're going in on this person and some other people, I was like, I hope they choose a voice that's not already on this show. Meaning we have an African-American male, we have a white female, and then we have a white male. He's Cuban. He says he's Cuban. I'm not sure exactly, but, when most people look at that person, they see a white male. But let's get it straight. Mojo says all the time that he is Cuban. So I did make that comment. And I also said it'd be nice if there was an AA American woman. Because there hadn't been any at this point. This whole time. Mind you, I saw in the picture there were several. Remember, to everything there's a gatekeeper. There were several that was there. Now, we'll get to that. So I just made that comment. So we see some of the, others, I said they probably choose that one young kid I think he's from Grand Rapids, young man. He seemed very nice. And again, he's young, so he's just starting out. So doing some of the things that they'd be asking that person to do, he's not going to mind to do. One woman, whoa, one woman, I was like, she's not going to do this. She's acting all snooty with them. Like, this was not worth my time. She was acting like, you all are lucky I even came out to this. That is the exact way she was acting. You're lucky I even came to this. She was so snooty. She was like I can do this. I was like, no, we don't want. Look, you don't need to be confrontational. You need to be funny, upbeat, perky, and have a nice speaking voice. That's really it. We're not looking for you to like go ham on people. So I was kind of like, next. I said, no confrontation, just good conversation. Next. Hey, I listened to this show. I'm going to make another comment towards the end. I do listen to the show on a regular basis, and most of the time when I'm listening to them, I am driving. And I just started, since I'm working at home now, I just really started listening to them like on my phone at home. So I don't have a radio in the house. It's either I'm be listening to them streaming on their Facebook Live, or I'm listening to iHeartRadio on my phone. Okay? That's how it's going to play out. So, we finally get an African American male. Now, mind you, there's already an African American male on there, and this guy's name was Devon. Devon was really nice. He was really cool. He was very smooth. I think he was one of the first ones to be like, kind of fully relaxed. Like, this is my environment. This is who I am. And he looked really awesome. But we know there's already that demographic and that voice on that show. And he seemed very likable. And I was like, that he needs his own show, period. I said, I doubt they're going to choose someone who's like to me, he should be out fishing for his own show. He should be podcasting on a regular basis. He says what he does is live streaming, and he mainly plays games, and he sometimes does like some commentary, or it seems like he gets invited out to certain things like that. So they were really looking, and there was another podcaster who was there who I was kind of like about. They were really, I think it was just because she was pretty, and it was the one towards the end. And I wasn't feeling it, but other people was like, it's their show, but I wasn't feeling that. I was not feeling that voice at all. Talk about the asthma. I just wasn't feeling it. But anyway, she got in there and got on there. Like I was saying, it seemed like they were just checking some boxes. And then we get the African American woman. Now, she has a lot of experience. And to me, this would be a person who would benefit. And she was even on air at one point. I think she was one of the ones that they are considering. And I really liked her. Her name was Melody. And I was like, yes. I was like, Melody, Melody, Melody. Yes, I really liked her. And, I hopefully, if she's chosen, awesome. But you just saw boxes being checked. And so one of the boxes being checked was, making sure it looked like they choose different people. And it was very diverse. Which, it was diverse. And then, but to me, it seemed like for some people, it seemed that they needed to have, to be perfect. It kind of almost seemed like if they were looking at African American talent, or, you would have had to been like Melody. There was no average, there was no average Joe for, Devon. He's streaming already, probably has a really great following. Like I said, to me, he's show ready. He should just, get his podcast up, start promoting, start doing things. Melody, same. I'm very shocked, but, I understand wanting to be on someone else's show and not having to, have everything be dependent on you, like getting guests and doing everything and getting a studio space. This is an already made space. But, I liked her. I liked her a lot. But like I said, to me, it just looked like there were some boxes being checked. And for some, I was like, we just didn't scrutinize this person some more before deciding to bring them on. Like the videographer, I'll be honest, straight up, I cannot stand her voice. The way, and I'm glad that Mojo said something, because I'm not sure if he was talking, he could have been talking very broad about a lot of them that came in there. But that voice in particular, I was like, is it just me, or does it just sound, I don't know, it's just too much for me. It didn't sound smooth and nice. You know how your natural voice should be. She almost sounded like she was in her headspace. So, hey, we are on air and Unfiltered. And, but this is what my main thing is that I'm wondering. And what I hope that many got out of this while they were there and they went through this experience. Like I said, I've done open castings and open casting calls on a larger scale and gone to those. The process is a little different. I was a little like, this is, I don't think they've done this format before. So it's okay. Because I'm like, you get something, you get an email, you're supposed to receive something. To me, it's not open. That's not open. I don't need your permission to go onto your website to apply. But I do need your permission to come down there and get in that door. Gatekeepers. There's a gatekeeper always somewhere there. A gatekeeper is going to do their job. And I'm glad that this was seen, because even though those people went down there, even though they were there, that gatekeeper did not let them in completely. There was only a few that were able to get up to that spot. And I did think it was a little funny when I mentioned AA, when I mentioned African American. Oh, here comes African American male. Not saying he wasn't already up there, because you had to get up there. You know, like I said, they had their lineup that they selected. They had their lineup that they selected. I'm going to repeat it for those in the back. They had their lineup that they selected. So for those who went through this, I hope you do not get discouraged. If this is really like who you think you are and this is where your space is, start doing you. Start your own thing. Sometimes, you know, this is why I do what I do. And I prefer to do what I do. I create my own opportunities, is basically what I do. That's what I'm going to say. I create my own opportunities. And I just created a nice, you know, business contact with somebody who's going to be a great business contact. Hopefully I can benefit her as much as she's benefiting me right now. This is why, if you're not given a seat at the table or invited to the table, you need to create your own table. This is why I do what I do. This is one of my missions, and is to amplify those underserved voices. It's an absolute mission of mine. You know, I've gone through this for so long. You know, I decided to be done with the gatekeepers. I said, I'll represent myself. I'll be my own model. You get tired of jumping through hoops for only the hoop to be a hole. There's no connection. So create your own opportunities. Create your own space. I just can't say that more. You know, and I'm curious to see the outcome, because we're going to come back on. I'm going to stay watching this, because I am very curious of who they're going to select. And it seems like Mojo wants to select more than one person, and maybe they'll have them on at different times to do, like, you know how you have your first, so you went through your first round, now you got through your second round, and maybe they're going to do a third round to where they have you actually come on and do a full show. And hopefully they'll give all who they like that opportunity, especially since it's open. So that was some of the things. Now, I'm sure as I think of more and relate these things. Oh, I know what I wanted to. I almost forgot. So this really, when I was thinking of this and the gatekeepers, and, you know, it made me, there was this old clip on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And it was a young man who, after he just graduated from Harvard, African-American young male, I'm not sure if he was having trouble with certain things, but for some reason he decided to do this like expose to where he was going to go in and go undercover at this all-white country club, basically, and try to get a job. And I'm not sure if it was because of maybe he was experiencing certain things when he came. You know, there's one thing when you see a name in a piece of paper, you assume who that person is. You assume who somebody is versus who they actually are, you know? So anyway, he went undercover, and he was initially applying for a waiter. And when he was going to a lot of these fancy restaurants and fancy places to apply for a waiter, he was getting rejected. And he's like, what? He's like, I'm not good enough to be a waiter? And so he finally gets in at this country club, and they say, you know what, we like you, you're very articulate, but we want you to be a busboy. And he didn't understand why. He goes, why not a waiter? He goes, well, we just feel, you know, some of the waiters have been here for a while. It was they didn't want the black person out there, you know, serving. They didn't want that. And one lady said to him, I think she recognized him or came up to him and says, well, but we pay to be separate. They want it that way. And he's just like, it's a waiter position. So it's okay for him to come out and clear out the tables when, everyone's gone, or, not to be seen the entire time. Because as a waiter, you're going to be going to different people's tables and they're going to see you more than once. So their whole thing was, he's black, let's give him an opportunity as a busboy. And he can go out there and clear the tables and then be off the floor and just stay in the back. That was the whole thing. And remember, we had this thing before where, remember, if you have it in the background, you don't need it at the table. That's why you have many people out there creating their own tables right now. And it's not even so much like a race issue with what happened today, but just an opportunity. There was like one. And then it was like, how are we going to even decide from, they feel like they saw a lot of people. When I've gone to an open casting call, hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands, they may see 1,000 people that whole day, if not more. Think about how America's Got Talent works. Think about all those things. I know this is a smaller scale. They really think they saw like a lot of people. And it's like, no. But when something's new to you, it's new to you. You don't fully know. You don't fully understand the working concepts of it. And like I said, to me, they could have saved some time with some of the people they had on their show. I was like, that first one, that didn't even make sense. I don't care if you were there at 3 a.m. I do not care, because I was going to actually do that, and I'm kind of like, something in my spirit just told me. And I started to send an email before today. And so when those comments were made, I was like, oh, so basically I was, you get screened out. So a lot of people got screened out based on, unfortunately, maybe their social media page. That they didn't feel the need to send you a letter so that you could send in your video. Hey, send us your video to here. And I just think that's unfortunate. I really do. I think that is so unfortunate, because it's like, but you have to find a way to narrow it. And no one goes, hey, we got this. Now we need your video. So don't feel bad like, oh my God, I missed something, I didn't send my video in. No, don't feel bad. Because that's why they got your social media. You really didn't need a video from me. I wanted it, because it didn't seem like all those people sent a video. Hey, does this person have a video? They kept trying to make sure, because everyone sent a video. No, we already know everyone didn't send a video. I saw that, because the ones that did send a video, they put it up behind them. So we could just, don't worry about it. Don't fret. Don't do none of that. Don't. Because if they wanted a video from you, they would have asked after going to your social media page. Point blank. But, whew. But anyway, I'll be doing more of this. Getting back to me, doing more of this. I know there's some other things that I wanted to say, but I can't think of it right now. But, definitely start creating your own spaces. Start creating your own things. Create. Don't get frustrated. Don't lose doubt. Don't do any of that. Just create. That is the only thing. But it was an interesting process to watch, and read the comments at the bottom. But, unfortunately, it was what it was. And like I say, you got to get past that gatekeeper. Now, there's one young lady, I do want to comment, because there's one, because, when he stated like you'll be basically, maybe coming on to comment, but really just working behind the scenes, I really hope this is the opportunity that people think it is and want. I really do. I think a lot of people see this as their dream job. Like, yeah, I definitely want to be an on-air radio personality, get to like mix and mingle with these different people. And I really do hope it's what they're expecting. I really do. Let's see what else we could say about it. Oh, wow. Also, I think those are my main things, though, was, how people were coming for that person. And then those comments about certain things. And, yeah, we'll be back with this. We'll know the process, maybe rewatch it, see what else we can get out of it. Definitely keep following their storyline. I'm going to keep following their storyline.
lights, now we all look famous. Diamonds on the neck, on the wrist, and the anklets. Little bit of oil, and we back to the basics. Letting everybody know now. Put the name in lights, now we all look famous. Diamonds on the neck, on the wrist, and the anklets. Little bit of oil, and we back to the basics. Letting everybody know now. Crystal rain, 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 crystal rain.